Welcome back to another CIRF report. This one is our first CIRF report that it's going to start midweek. So November 7th, that's tomorrow, Thursday. I'm recording this on the 6th of November, Wednesday, and it's going to go to and cover up to November 13th. So we have a weekend in there, and we also have a full moon, and we're going to be talking about all the astrology. But first, if you're new here, please understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out the biggest energy that all of us are going to be feeling, and then how to surf that energy. And so we'll have a solution slide at the very end. We'll have. So I'm going to give you all the possible energies, or most of them, astrologically, collectively, collective mind, dreambot, and the I-Ching. And then at the end, we're going to nail that down to one or two energies. This is what you might be feeling this week, and then what to do with that energy to successfully navigate through the next few days. Let's get into the summary slide, and you can already see a potential issue here. The green circle, what we're trying to do is have an overlap with all these different circles. And right in the middle is going to be our main influence. Well, the dreambot, or the collective unconscious, is seeing something that looks more like a plane crash or something to do with planes and jets. And we'll talk about that a lot more, but it's not really overlapping too well with the astrology. The astrology, we're looking at a lot of sun aspects, a lot of Venus aspects. So ego and relationships, respectively. And then we have a full moon. So all that energy is going to be packed into this purple circle. And then the I-Ching is telling us that 37, hexagram 37, the family. And we'll talk. And there was no change line. For those of you who are familiar with the I-Ching, no change line, which means that the solution to this energy is the same, or is embedded in the hexagram 37. So we're going to get into all that. Ultimately, it's a low congruency score other than the I-Ching. The I-Ching is directly related to half of the astrology, which is the Venus aspects, the relationships. The relationships get irritated, all right? And the I-Ching knows this, apparently, and so advises us to order and create order in the home. All right, but ultimately this summary slide is saying that we are going to be trying to find our real self. Ego is trying to find self, and it's going to be doing so only by relating to others and creating harmony. All right, if that went way over your head, don't worry. We're going to start with the dreambot. The dreambot is a collection of dreams, and in it holds a lot of material about our future, about the influences that we're all experiencing, because the premise is if our collective mind is being propagandized, be thinking like Hitler and Third Reich, and how did they get all these minds to go with the flow? Well, propaganda. So the first thing that you can find in the collective unconscious is possible propaganda. The second thing that you can find is possible futures, because regardless if we're predicting or creating the future, we have precognitive dreams, and that runs across all the different models of religions and philosophies. And I can explain that if you need to, if someone needs that explanation. But it works, and we showed in Project August that we can predict the future. So the question is this particular dreambot run on the 6th of November, is this a prediction of something coming? Listen to these words in the red arrows: pilot, radio, cabin, jet, mask, direction, sound, blade, explosion, filter, and max. Now, that has a lot to do with the way engines work, even like the engine blade. All that stuff is in there. Of course, explosion could be either the plane explodes or just an explosion inside the engine that propels the plane. So dreams do work metaphorically, but it's very clear that the red arrows have everything to do with plane, pilot, and just flying in general. Now, there's two metaphors here that that might make sense, and it might make this green arrow or the green circle more inside of the astrology to make it a higher congruency. And that is flying and piloting could have to do with the ego and the search for ego, identity, the search for ego. The search for identity. And then I lost my train of thought. Well, anyway. And then piloting. Oh, okay. The blue arrows then is the communication that we need for that has to do with Venus. And we're going to be talking about the astrology here in a second. But in the blue arrows is all about radio, voice, communication, etc., and sound. So sound and communication, that has everything to do with Venus, the Venus aspect that we're going to be talking about next. All right, let's get into the precursor to astrology. And here's our chart. These black vertical lines is where we are, 7th through the 13th. And so you can see that there are quite a few aspects that are coming into view. And so we're going to be covering this area. These are just the major aspects. These are not any moon aspects. So you're not going to see the full moon on here. It's going to be on the latter part of our week. But you have a lot of green. You have a couple of red. Those semi-squares to Venus are not going to show up on this chart. All right. And before we get started with the full astrology, I want to just go ahead and put this into context. I want to give you the I-Ching reading. And this is for the full 7 days. This includes the full moon next Tuesday. But the tossing of the coins did not produce any change lines. So 37 is what it is. It's wind over fire. It's called the dwelling people, the family, the judgment, the perseverance of the woman furthers. Wind comes forth from fire, the image of the family. Thus the superior man has substance in his words and duration in his way of life. It's a continuance. It's a moving forward, but it's very specific about going to your home and improving. Home improvement is the basis for establishment of order in the world. So you can take that either literally or very broadly in your life, but ultimately it's about creating more harmony, creating more order, creating less chaos, specifically in and around your home, which we're considering is family, yes, but not just family, more so the people that are really close to you. And it might just so happen that the people that are closest to you are your family. That's fine. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that some people, a lot of clients that I have, only have their quote unquote family is very unhealthy for them. And it would be very disastrous for them to try to go in there and create a bunch of order. So we're going to use family very broadly. And these are the people that really understand you the best, that understand and accept you for who you are, that nurture you, that love you. That's the kind of people that we're talking about here in terms of family. Ultimately, we want the people who understand us and accept us. That's where we thrive as human beings. During times of adversity, we turn back to the family. The gentle wind stirs above the clinging fire, fanning it and sustaining illumination. This is the heart of the hearth fire, kept burning during times of trouble. It is a place where we find safety and nourishment during difficult times. Is this going to be difficult times? Is that what the collective was talking about? Still haven't gone into the astrology. We'll do that here shortly. But I wanted to set the stage with the I-Ching because there's no change line. We need to establish structures and define roles. This is according to the Unchanged Book of Changes, the Unchanged line. Since the hexagram is unchanging, it can indicate that the situation has or will achieve this stability as long as everyone is free to have their needs met. Creating an environment where needs are met. All right, that's enough for now. Let's go talk about the astrology, which this zodiac is pegged to the current time. As you can see, it's November 6th, and I'm recording this at 9:02 p.m. Central Standard Time. I wanted to go over what we have now. This is before our 7th, but these aspects are going to stay with us the whole week. And that one is Sun trine Neptune. The one that's not going to stay very long is Sun trine Moon. Moon is conjunct with Neptune, so dreamy, so emotions are dreaming, and Sun being our ego wants. And by the way, Sun is conjunct with part of fortune. So where is my ego headed? And what kind of life am I living? Where am I going with this? What's my fortune in life? What's my destiny? And that's trine. So trine is easy energy. It's easy to dream about what my ego needs are. It's easy to dream about how I'm so emotionally invested in my place in the world, my identity, and the way people perceive me. But also Neptune is kind of tricky because it can fantasize. It can show you things that aren't really true. And so you've got to be really careful anytime, even though it's a positive trine aspect. It's going to be all too easy for ego, Sun, to want something different, to see greener pastures and be emotionally invested in that future. All right, so that's going to be with us, with exception of the Moon trine there and part of fortune. But Sun trine Neptune will always be there. So this week, ego, thinking, and identity, kind of dreaming about what I want to be doing with my life. Then the Sun also makes a sextile over to Saturn. Saturn makes a sextile over to Neptune. And so this completes the loop. We talked about this on Monday, but this loop here is in search of my identity, my ego identity. And Saturn gives the stability with a nice little sextile as an opportunity to write your course. That's what we talked about. But it's a journey of ego. All right, that's all these aspects that I'm just talking about are run the entire 7 days. The other thing, so that's about ego and ego wants. We got the stability of Saturn kind of driving that, or helping drive it. Then we have Venus. Venus makes a couple of semi-squares. It's going to make a semi-square over to Mars. And this is going to be valid for the first couple of days in this journey. So there's a semi-square over to Mars, and there's a semi-square from Venus over to Pluto. And so, semi-squares are irritants. And so Venus being with relationships, possibly finance, possibly, Sagittarius, so deeper wisdom in the relationships, all that gets irritated, especially when we try to get something done. It's Mars. So if we're fighting for something, that is irritated. And so the relationships are irritated. And you also might be seeing some hidden control, maybe some control freaks in your relationships, and it's getting irritated that way, or ending of relationships, or drastic, sudden ends, new beginnings. Also, Pluto being not just the destroyer, but also the creator of something new. So you might be have a catastrophe, but also something that gets birthed in its place in terms of relationships. That's all happening while Venus has an inconjunct, and this is starting tomorrow, and I'm not going to go there just yet, but Venus is going to make an inconjunct over to Uranus. So holy cow, I mean, just all sorts of Venus getting hit from all different directions. And, the biggest change agents are Uranus and Pluto. And so there might be some big upheaval in the relationships, which is why the I-Ching wanted us to focus on the relationships. Okay, we'll get to that solution later. But let's finish and let's go day by day on the astrology. First, we'll hit up on the 7th, very, very early on, and we're going to see what the moon is doing. And that's about 1 a.m. And we will see, where is the moon? Moon's right here. It's making an exact conjunction with Neptune. That's what we talked about earlier. We still have that trine over to the sun. And the moon's making, the sun, no, we already have that. So the only thing that we left off is the moon trine sun. So that's all still hunky-dory. But, emotions and ego, that's when we talked about emotionally invested in that ego desire. But it is balanced. Ego needs, my drive, my willpower are well balanced with my emotional reaction. And so there's not really many problems there. It's just with this aspect of Neptune has us wondering, am I really doing the right thing going forward? Is my willpower correct, or should I be doing something different? So doubt as to your ego path. Then we move on to the 8th, and let's go to 12 p.m. And at 12 p.m., we're looking at Venus square Neptune. Went a little bit too far, but that's close enough. Venus square Neptune, there it is. And what we have there is the dreams, dreaming of a new relationship, but those create blocks. So, the fantasies that you're receiving about relationships might trick you, might throw wrenches into your current relationships. That's just one example of how this could manifest. But there it is again. Venus gets hit again with a kind of a difficult aspect, a square. So obstacles in the relationships are obstacles from the dreams that you're having about the relationship. It blocks harmony, and maybe fantasizing about obstacles in that relationship. Who knows? So just very difficult for relationships. Okay, I hope that becomes very clear. Then on the 9th, we're going to have a T-square, and the T-square is best to be represented at 1:28 p.m. on the 9th. This is Saturday. Almost there. And you can see that here. Moon opposed Mars. And then those two are squared up to Pluto. So we had this square a little bit earlier, but Mars square Pluto is very contentious. It can produce a lot of, conflicts, battles even. It's a control battle. It's both parties want to control the fight, and they're assuming that the other one is controlling them. That's just how that works. And then you're caught in a loop here with the moon. You're really emotionally invested in that. We can't balance the emotions with Mars because we've got this suspecting they're controlling us, or manipulation, or suspecting manipulation is coming out of that. And that, unfortunately, is going to be showing up all the way until it's basically all weekend. All weekend you'll have this T-square, and it is very relational, even though it doesn't have anything to do with Venus. Venus still in its square with Neptune. So, wow, just, relationships getting brutal here with all these troubling aspects. All right. On the 11th, we're going to zoom all the way to 9:19 a.m. And we're going to get to something that I didn't talk about, but this one becomes exact, is Sun and Mercury. Now, Mercury going backwards in retrograde, And this isn't exact yet, but I didn't want to hit the exact time, just take too long to get there. But Sun conjunct Mercury. Now this is, you want to back up all the way to 7th of November. This is still there. So they're still within the orb, Sun and Mercury. Sun and Mercury is being able to communicate. And now goes back to the dream bot. This is the direct overlap here with Mercury retrograde conjunct the Sun. So now, as I'm communicating, I'm going to naturally see my ego needs, or my higher needs are going to be communicated there. It becomes a lot more profound, a lot more urgent is probably a good word with Sun conjunct Mercury. So a lot of communication, maybe some rapid speech even. Maybe it's nonsensical. But the point here is that, if we connect this to the dream bot, this might be our crash and burn. Mercury is technically burning right now with the Sun conjunct. And so is the speech. The speech may not be all that effective right now. This is November 11th on Monday. So Monday morning, these two are going to be conjunct. So it might be very difficult to give a speech or talk to professional clients, if you will, and making negotiations. That probably would not be a good time to do that. But that's they're within the orb of each other all week. It's just going to be at the climax of the kind of problem area. As soon as you get outside of a couple of degrees, it's just going to be Mercury on steroids. So lots of communication, and that's the key to the relationship issues, talking out the problems. And in fact, I'm going to get to I might as well just tell you the punchline here. Communicating with your loved ones will actually help you find yourself. I'll put that seed in there right now, and let's finish the astrology. On November 12th, Tuesday, in the morning, 7:34, we're going to have that full moon. And I'll try and get exactly on this time on the 12th. The moon is going to be in Taurus. And so you're waking up to a full moon. What was it? It's 34. 7:34. We're pretty close. 7:35 or 7:15. Pretty doggone close. Sun is still technically conjunct with Mercury. You've got the moon obviously opposite the sun, and the moon is with the part of fortune now. That was kind of reverse as we talked about before with the sun with the part of fortune. So I'm going to do a separate video. Hopefully that's the goal on say this weekend or Monday night, doing just the full moon and what you need to know about that. But this still does have to do with communication, a little bit about relationships. Venus is not really in here. Venus is still off doing her square to Neptune, and but Mercury is a part of this full moon, so communication is big. Part of fortune, so my future, and Taurus is the things that I value. I find of value, and you could make a case that if we're talking about relationships all this week, and the I-Ching wanted us to really focus on family and the really close relationships, maybe we do something in terms of worth, i.e. Taurus, with our relationships. And so if the full moon is taking away, this is where sacrifices of old, or the old metaphors of sacrifice, you sacrificing something. Maybe we sacrifice something of value, give it to relationships in order to create harmony. Seems very logical to me. Relationships are really conflicted right now all week long. Harmony is being blocked. So we really do need to do everything we can to value family, to keep those relationships afloat, and understanding each other. So that's the full moon in a nutshell. It's at 19 Taurus, 52 degrees. Okay, we'll hopefully have another video just for the full moon. But lastly is Wednesday, 5 p.m., and this is the 13th. And this one's going to be a couple of oppositions. Mars and Uranus. And there it is. So you have the moon opposite Venus. There's the kind of the cap to the whole part of the relationships. Moon opposed Venus and conjunct part of fortune. Every time we look, we have our main aspects conjunct with the part of fortune. So there's a lot of destiny in this week. Lots of destiny, and this one with relationships. So very, very important to focus on your relationships. In this case, relationships have to be balanced with your emotions. So learning how to balance those emotions and emotional responses with the people that you love. Then Mars is going to oppose Uranus. Whew. Just some more, some potential real kick in the pants, and some drastic change might be coming. This could be, I'd probably expect it more with Pluto, but Mars opposed Uranus could be a plane issue. I'm talking metaphor anyway, kind of a plane crash, and that kind of metaphor in people's lives. Drastic changes, maybe not a crash, but maybe a quick change, a change of like big, huge changes in the way that you move forward in your yang. Big changes in how you move forward in life. And good luck with that. All right. That's it for the astrology, okay? Let's get to the final slide. And this is going to be the summary slide. The influence. It's looking into the mirror, but not the literal mirror. This is an analogy. You're going to find self. That's what this mirror here is for. You're going to find self in others. So ego is going to be satisfied, is going to find him or herself only as you harmonize with the folks, the loved ones around you. Okay, it's the main influence. The solution is very similar to that because the I-Ching didn't have any change lines. Create order and harmony in the family and close relationships. This is based on hexagram 37 and also all of the various Venus conflicted alignments. Create order and harmony. You have to focus on it. And I'll give you the nuts and bolts of creating harmony. It's understanding others and accepting them. What are you looking at when you understand them? You're understanding, of course, their feelings. Do you have to understand their behavior? Well, it helps, but you don't have to. Really, what you have to understand is their emotions, their feelings. You also have to understand what matters to them, their values, and they understand that they have free will. Accept all of that. Accept their feelings. Accept their highest values, and especially accept that they have their own free will. And when you do that, people thrive in that kind of emotional warmth. Here's what's interesting. When you do that really well, you will find your ego in that harmony, okay? When you really, truly understand others, you understand self. And it's not just a metaphor. That's not just a hypothetical statement. It's actually a lot of truth. We project ourselves onto other people. And the better that we can kind of dismantle those projections and really get to know the other person, that we're both connected, but we're also different people. And you can see both of those playing out when we reduce our projections onto those other people and start creating harmony by understanding them and accepting basically everything about them. Now, accepting certain things, just as a last little thing, if you've got unhealthy relationships, or if you're kind of on the fence, or if you find yourself in a violent situation, there's no accepting there. You owe it to yourself to have good boundaries and remove yourself from that situation and solidify your safety. I work with several clients who fall in this category, and so because they grew up in an environment with lack of or poor boundaries, then as adults they don't really know what good boundaries look like. So keep yourself safe, obviously, but work towards harmonizing the relationships without diving into that codependency realm. Codependency shows up when the relationship itself is more important than harmony and free will amongst the differentiated two people or two or more people that are in a relationship. Okay, when the relationship becomes the goal and not harmony. Harmony will come by truly understanding and accepting their emotions, their feelings, their values, and above all, their free will. All right, that's a wrap. I hope this helps everybody. Watch out, but don't live in fear, and just do the ego seeking, but don't seek ego in and of itself. Don't seek ego as the end. The means is through relationships, harmonizing relationships, and when you do that, you will find self. All right, enjoy the week. If it's raining where you are, like it is here, stay dry. We'll see you next time, hopefully before the full moon. Take care.